Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Time and Space, the Nerd Party's dedicated Doctor Who podcast. I'm Jessica Nunn.
And I'm our husband and co-host, Phillip Gilfus. Happy July.
Happy July. We're cutting it fine here.
Yes. So, last day in July, which means it's time for our...
Seventh Doctor report.
That's right. So, as usual, we're going off Richard Carrier's documentary YouTube video. So, we'll post a link to that on the show page. And we encourage you to watch that for all that great information. And so, launching that as a way to talk about the Seventh Doctor era. One thing I thought in the video that was interesting was him talking about sort of, you know, we left with the cliffhanger in his last video of Colin Baker being called by JNT, John Nathan Turner.
Now, was that a real audio of this?
No, I think that was Richard Carrier playing both parts.
Oh, okay.
Just like, you know, pitch meeting.
Yeah, just like pitch meeting.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, you know, it's crappy to call somebody on the phone and be like, hey, we've been renewed, but not with you. It's really crappy to record it.
When I say we've been renewed.
I mean, I...
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
But I'm the Doctor. Well, not so fast.
Funny story.
Right.
Oh,
so yes.
Shocking.
Colin Baker fired on the orders of BBC through JNT. I mean, sort of, you know, you can make the argument JNT could have made a stand, could have quit, could have done a bunch of things, but he didn't. So that's it.
But if he had made that stand, chances are just as good that they would have been like, okay, we're not going to renew it.
Yeah, axe the whole
Off you
series.
Pop. Yeah. So, bigger picture, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But still a sucky way to do things.
Right. And so it seemed like the way that Richard laid the table here for the beginning of this era was that, you know, we have Colin Baker being fired, and we have, you know, JNT wanting to leave Doctor Who, but not being able to.
Not being allowed to.
Because basically it seemed like the head of drama programming, whatever it's called, was sort of, you know, JNT's like, okay, I'm ready for other stuff. They're like, okay, your other stuff is not anything but Doctor Who.
Yeah. Your other stuff is to do Doctor Who with a new Doctor. You go.
Yep. Go. And it seemed like this time they talked about, you know, how JNT kind of chose Colin, or cast Colin Baker the last time, but this time it was going to be cast by committee.
Yes, and
we no longer trust you and we're in charge.
Holding auditions, and yeah, it sounds like a miserable time for everyone involved, I'll be honest.
Because then you have, you know, even the further background was you had the script editor who had left, who quit, Eric Seward, if I'm saying that name correctly.
Yeah.
So basically just a lot of things not going well. The whole thing sort of seeming like it was just burning down. And, you know, I mean, I'm glad they didn't, but at the time you could have been like, people could have just been like, whatever, just call it quits. Nobody's fighting for the show. Why are we fighting for the show? And so, but they did. And so they cast Sylvester McCoy.
Yes.
Interesting to see, it's always interesting to see the other actors, or the actors who played the Doctor, their background. And so, what'd you think of sort of McCoy's bio?
Yeah, little...
Insurance, not usually the typical background.
Yes, there's definitely a clip of him hammering a nail into his head.
Which I think you would respect, right?
Well, yes, I do. I currently have an ex-boyfriend who still does that trick, and I probably saw him do it, I don't know, 50 times. During the course of our relationship. He didn't do it just for fun. He did it on stage, much like Sylvester McCoy. But I couldn't watch it when someone you care about very much is hammering a nail into his head. That's difficult to watch. So this might be one of the first times I've actually seen it happen to someone. And I don't think I want to see it again.
Well, from what you told me, like, there's no trick.
There is no trick.
You're literally putting a nail.
It is making sure that you are sending the nail into it's not a magic nail. It's not a magic nose. It is sending the nail into your nasal cavity. And more than one time, I have seen the aftermath when it didn't go quite right, and then later on, my magician ex-boyfriend would end up getting blood all over the deck of cards that he had to play with next. These are things that happen. So, yeah, it's disconcerting to watch someone do that and know it's not a trick and know that it is just someone. It's like the sword swallowing. Sword swallowing is not a trick. They just push past that gag reflex and send that sword all the way down. And I've actually pulled a sword out of someone's body.
Did you become queen of anything?
I didn't,
okay.
which was the only reason I did it in the first place.
Right.
But again, it's an experience because I was an audience member, and they're like, you just stand there with your hand on the hilt, and they will back themselves away from it.
Oh, so you basically got the preparatory.
Yes.
Okay.
Do not pull. Do not. Please don't hurt our actor who has a sword down their esophagus, I assume. I don't know where it goes. These are tricks that I do not enjoy watching because having dealt with circus people, it's not a joke. I don't...
Circus people are not a joke.
Circus people are not a joke.
And I've
TLDR.
And I forget the name of the actor, but Richard in this video talked about another actor who was considered before Sylvester McCoy, so McCoy was considered. But they both worked together, and it sort of, without knowing the complete background, seemed to sort of be this sort of experimental Dada kind of...
roundabout theater, I think it was, which is still going.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was quite intrigued. I was like, well, now I want to sit down and talk to Sylvester McCoy.
And so it seems like they wanted maybe more of a, I don't know, not eccentric. I don't know what they said. Something maybe just a little more funny, a little more slapstick.
And wanted a bit of an unknown, I believe.
Right.
And so McCoy had considerable stage experience, but wasn't as television known or film known. So yeah,
and so then we get McCoy cast, and then we sort of, I thought it was, very briefly, but interesting talking about, I guess, because this is always a thing, when you cast a new doctor, that's always a whole thing. And then the finding the quote-unquote the uniform, the costume, the look. And, which I always...
They basically took it from McCoy's closet.
Yeah, I think that's always funny to me, and I say it every video, how the actor has so much input. Which, I get it, but, so much input, 75%, not 25, can I move and be comfortable? This is no, what do you want? You know, and so...
Quite fancy.
Right.
Yeah. Although, not as much, because
except for the jumper.
He didn't like the jumper, He didn't want to wear the jumper with the question marks.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is fair.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because even Richard comments...
But the straw hat was his.
The Panama hat.
It actually came out of his closet.
Yes. He during the...
audition process,
during the promo day, the first picture promos is just sort of hastily called press conference to announce McCoy. He just wore what he wore, and
they decided
ended up
to
basically
keep it.
being the most because it's a nice costume, and because it's always interesting with him as his profile because he's shorter of the doctors. And in real life, but it's interesting how he still carries everything off.
Fun size,
because Colin's I would think Colin is a tall guy, just on his own. And so to go, and then I think most of all the doctors, Bill and maybe Pat seemed like they were short guys, but John and Tom, and Peter and Colin all seemed pretty tall folks.
Relatively, yeah.
But so the way Richard described it, and it's kind of been the same way I've sort of shown or not shown you Seventh Doctor serials about sort of the tale of two shows in this era that you sort of have the. He didn't call it this, but this is what I'll call it. The Mel era and the Ace era. Mm-hmm. And so it took a while to find the character, which, that's fine. I don't, that's not a begrudging.
And it's relatively common. I would absolutely divide Capaldi's seasons into the Clara versus the Bill. And to me, he didn't find his, and I've said this before, I always feel like the dynamic between Capaldi and Clara is not brilliant. I really liked her with Matt Smith, didn't much like her with Capaldi. But then you get Capaldi and Bill, and whoosh, it just fleshes out into this lovely thing. So yeah, he is certainly not the last Doctor to have this break.
Yeah, and so he had 3 series, and I pulled it up on the internet, so I don't know this off the top of my head. But so season 24, 25, and 26. 24, so we saw his first episode was Time and the Ronnie. Mm-hmm. And then we haven't seen the other 2 serials, but we've seen the last one was Dragonfire, which is the exit of Mel and the introduction of Ace.
Mm. Oh, yes, of course, yeah.
And then in 25, we have Remembrance of the Daleks, which kicked that off, which we saw. Mm-hmm. And then another few that we haven't. And then 26, the final one, and the final, which we've seen most of, Ghostlight, Curse of Fenric, and Survival. We haven't seen Battlefield, I don't think. But anyway, yeah, so that means not a lot, but that's sort of the way the era is. So yeah, let's just talk about what little you know and see of sort of the Doctor and Mel.
Yeah, I feel like Richard made an interesting point about how, what's her name?
Bonnie.
I was thinking
Langford.
Bonner, but then I was just coming up with Bonnie Tyler, and I knew that wasn't right. Welsh, great, but not the right person. Bonnie Langford had been a child actor before this, playing this precocious little girl in curls, almost Shirley Temple-esque, and that the writing tended to mold her in that fashion. Mm-hmm. Alike Mel, she has a fantastically piercing scream. But after Perry, Mel is
more of the same, kind of.
But not quite as bad.
Right.
Not quite as, I tripped over my own feet
right.
kind of thing, as Perry was wont to do. So after Perry, Mel is a little more refreshing, but then you get Ace and it blows it apart. So.
Yeah, I think the thing with Mel, and I mean, I'm not sure this is the only challenge, but the fact that she never had an introduction, she was the companion from the Doctor's own future timeline who either never filled the
yes.
gap.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's...
Just all of a sudden she was there. Perry was gone and she was there and boom, off we pop.
Yeah, and so...
Yeah.
Not that you... I mean, in Classic Who, not necessarily do you need this backstory of the companion, but it doesn't hurt.
Well, you don't need a massive backstory,
right.
but it helps to, see the interaction, have that moment. Yeah, why is she there? Dunno, she's just here.
And then what's she about?
Yeah.
So, I mean, she
Where
wasn't...
has she come from?
Yeah, and so, I mean, she wasn't... Sorry, Perry. As useless as Perry. I mean, she, tended to be the one who would go investigate. She wasn't the person who was like, I just want to go back to the TARDIS. She was capable, but not super capable. She didn't necessarily have any super skills, other than... I mean, I think they said in passing she's supposed to be a computer expert, but never really showed that. So... but then we get to Ace in Dragonfire and the rest of the classic series. So, what do we think of Ace, darling?
I love Ace. Mm-hmm. I love Ace. She's a self-rescuing princess, which is absolutely fantastic. And I just think the chemistry, again, watching it last night, the chemistry between Ace and the Doctor is just so gorgeous to watch. Mm-hmm. We've talked a lot about, the pseudo-romantic bent that we sometimes get, particularly with New Who. But this is, the Doctor is so, in moments, indulgent of her. Mm-hmm. It's just this lovely, almost parental thing that we don't see again, to bring it back up, until Bill and the 12th Doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, having Ace sort of be this, for lack of a better word, troubled juvenile, with an attitude and
a history that gets played into.
Yeah, sort of this troubled history. Nothing too crazy, but still, a
She
rough
definitely
patch.
set a house on fire.
Right. And so, she's always bringing that, again, there's a better word than attitude, but I'll just use it, bringing that attitude to everything, but where she's also...
Fortitude.
Because she's this mix of things. She's also very, not naive, but she's very open to people. Hey, you're cool, I'm cool, I want to get to know you.
Let's hang out. Yeah, young.
Yeah,
She's
young.
quite young.
But then at other times, it's like, I'm afraid because, this is some greater thing. I don't like what this guy's about. I don't like that this person's about. They represent something. And there's either two ways she reacts to that, which is how everyone reacts, fight or flight. Mm-hmm. So she either runs away.
Let's leave this place.
I don't want to do this. Or fight and hit it with a baseball bat or explode it with
nitrogen
deodorant.
Isn't it deodorant?
No,
cans?
It isn't a deodorant can. Yeah, it's nitro.
Yeah.
Nitroglycerin.
Yeah. A nitro deodorant. I love it.
So yeah, and I just think it is always intriguing to have Ace in a story, because it's one where you can work with that Doctor Who story, because you can split them off, which is very formulaic. But then she'll make friends with whoever, and then basically maybe have her own companion for the story.
Yeah, we tend, particularly with Perry, but also a little bit with Mel, they split off, but then inevitably get into bloody trouble.
Right.
And Ace is not, she does sometimes, but she's also going to, like I say, she's a self-saving princess. She's a self-rescuing princess. And again, the Doctor, the Seventh Doctor with her is so indulgent. He just has so much fondness for her. In a way that Capaldi doesn't necessarily have for Bill, which just changes the dynamic. It's not good, bad, but it just changes that dynamic. And but he just has this softness for her. And, she does clever things, and he knows she's going to do clever things. And then she does stupid things, and he just sort of, puppet. It's just, it's so much fun to watch. They are pretty close to some of my favorite combo.
Yeah, and I think when we were watching Ghostlight, it was sort of a joke after a while, but the Doctor's sort of catchphrase was, "I'm the Doctor, this is my friend Ace." It's like, even when this huge monster was appearing for the first time, like, "I'm the Doctor, this is my friend Ace," but that's sort of the the introduction. I'm the Doctor, and this is my friend Ace here. It's not my my companion or my assistant or whatever, and this is. Yeah, and I think the Ace is very interesting to watch, because then when you remember it's like 1988 or 89, which I can only see from an American perspective, but I'm sure that, even culturally British, when we were watching Ghostlight, just to pick another moment, when she puts on the tuxedo instead of the dress.
Yes, yes, and then insists one of the ladies in waiting or whatever also put on a tuxedo.
I know, because I was about to be like, I think they have a romance in this episode, which, is fine, but I didn't know that was in Classic Who. But I think that's something you can read from Ace, or not read from Ace, I suppose.
I think it's dealer's choice.
Yeah.
There is nothing explicit about her sexuality, but there certainly is about her dress choice.
Yes.
And you do you, boo.
Yeah, and so I think that she definitely... I was going to say subvert expectations, but, just the tropey expectations of what a woman or a young lady is supposed to be.
Trope.
Yeah, but she is definitely...
And not just the trope of what a general girl is supposed to be, but also the trope of what the companion's supposed to be.
Right. Yeah, and then moving sort of just to the Seventh Doctor in general. We talked about McCoy. What do you think of this Doctor in particular? What's his characteristics that you think that make him different? Because he sort of has this, I'm sort of rereading Chamber of Secrets here in Harry Potter, he sort of has this Slytherin element, where he is...
Oh, God. You're putting him in your house?
Well, I think,
But I would agree.
Yeah, because he's well, I'm trying to think of a more positive word than conniver, but he's a conniver. He wants to manipulate, but with noble intention. So, like, for instance, just talking about Ace. He knows her background, and he's trying to make her face her fears, force her to face her fears. So whether it's Ghostlight with this, haunted mansion that she burned down, whether it's with her mom in The Curse of Fenric, and whether it's anything, it's, forcing Ace to I wouldn't say grow up, but just sort of deal with things.
Face things.
Yeah, don't ignore things, basically.
And I was initially going to say Sly.
Right.
But then, because I didn't like Sly, because that seems
Sylvester
more,
McCoy.
well, I'm going with, wait for it, he's very coy.
Uh-huh.
He knows what's going on, but he plays it off quite playfully.
Right.
And like you say, not in a... Because Sly suggests he's doing it for nefarious purposes. And it is more altruistic than that. But he definitely always knows more than he's saying.
Right. Because then when you have Remembrance of the Daleks, which kind of messes up the timeline, but ignoring that for a moment, where he had the eye of Omega, or Omega, as your choice may be, mileage may vary, where he was plotting of where to put that, and the Daleks and all that stuff, and
has already made those arrangements. Of course, that wasn't him making the arrangements. Right. It was the previous...
Yes, Doctor.
Incarnation.
Yes.
But, yeah.
And then also, with McCoy's style, I was thinking about this, in some ways, it's over the top, but it's not. Because he's almost... theatrical, which you think would not always work on TV, because I think, you have, again, comparing to the previous Doctors, I mean, almost all of them, I'll start with Tom Baker, so 4, 5, 6, the Bakers and Davidson, they sort of can have their dramatic moments, but they're, it's sort of acted like a TV actor, whereas McCoy will he's the Doctor you want to give a speech to. In the classic era,
McCoy has flair,
and he'll talk about it, and he'll have big hands and all that, and you're like, it's almost over the top, but it's not, because you can tell where it's coming.
Was that Capaldi doing McCoy?
But you can almost tell where it's coming from, or maybe it's a Scottish thing.
Maybe. I tend to think of it. I mean, obviously, all of our guys have come from theatrical backgrounds. In fact, possibly the Doctor with the least theater background is Matt Smith. That sort of flair for finding your emphasis, and McCoy has it. And maybe it's an age versus theater thing. I'm not sure at what point he became the Doctor, how old he was, but his primary, he had been doing theater up until then, mostly, and so that's ingrained in your soul.
Yeah. So I think, like I said, he's there's a video of him doing Matt Smith's speech from the Pandorica, and he does it great. I mean, because again, I think he just has that, whether it's a Capaldi or a Matt Smith. I don't know whether Tennant ever had a really good speech moment, or even Chris Eccleston. But like McCoy, I think is as a Doctor, you can give a big old speech to, and he'll nail it down with that passion.
Yeah, I mean Eccleston's final right before Regeneration. I was fantastic, or whatever it is that he says. That's a really lovely moment. I'll have to think about Tennant.
Sure.
But Tennant's just fun to watch.
Yeah. So any episodes or moments from the 7th Doctor era you want to...
I mean, there were cat people.
Yeah,
I distinctly
survival.
Remember cat people.
Yeah, the last episode ever of Classic Who.
Yep. I think, based on what I've seen, the Dalek episode is probably my favorite, because I think it touches on some really fantastic themes.
Some interesting fan service, without being overly so. We go back to 63, when we first saw the Doctor.
Yeah, and I think that's
Cole
the
Hill.
other thing I like about it, this little tying of things. But also the thematic, hey, let's just remember that A, Nazis are bad, and B, that sort of mindset still exists, so we need to be vigilant.
Right.
And so it's an episode that doesn't age.
Right. Unfortunately.
And also Ace, pick your love interests better. But it's Ace, she's not going to do that.
And then she beats the hell out of a Dalek with a baseball bat.
Yes, in a car park.
I know.
It's fantastic.
I don't see many companions who do that.
No, we should see more, but this is a good one. Yeah.
Has your companion attacked a Dalek? No. Well, how great are they?
Yeah. Well, then, might be time for a change, mate.
So, this is, of course, was the end of the era. Doctor Who got the axe, and that was it. There was really no goodbye, because they'd already filmed everything.
Although they do a speech.
Yeah,
they write for Sylvester McCoy a speech that they do over the last episode,
Right.
once they knew that they had been canceled. And ironically, he recorded it on...
November 23rd, 1989.
So the anniversary of, well,
Doctor Who?
Kennedy's death.
Yes, it's depending on what you observe, depending on how you were brought up.
Yeah, well, American versus British,
Right,
we
yeah.
observe it as the day Kennedy died. Britons observe it as the day Doctor Who premiered. Right. It's really, literally a tomato-tomato.
It's like how we celebrate Thanksgiving in November, and they don't at all.
Much like that. It is exactly like... You were so clever.
Similar to the
darling.
July 4th.
Yeah.
I mean, they still have it, so that's good.
Yes, yeah. Yep, they definitely, every year they have a July 4th. Yep.
So this actually, of course, isn't the end, even though, with the video we saw, that's not the end of the Seventh Doctor. Of course, we see him in the Doctor Who movie in 1996, and we see his final voyage. I know it's been a while. What you remember? What do you remember of sort of the seventh ending?
Nout.
All right. Well, I have to say, I mean, whatever. We all bag on the movie, and I'm not going to just, whatever. But I will say, as far as the Seventh Doctor, I think it doesn't do well by him. But whatever. It's the Eighth Doctor's movie, so whatever. What can you do? But,
you mean him getting shot?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about it like a multiple Doctor movie that I completely had blanked out of my head.
No.
Oh, no. Him getting shot. I mean, that, sucks. So look, Sylvester McCoy, the Seventh Doctor's back!
Yeah.
And that's literally the amount of time he has.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very... I don't know the word I'm looking for. It's just not great.
No, but it's certainly better than the 6 to 7 transformation.
Well, that's true.
Let's be honest.
It wasn't Paul McGann in a Panama hat pretending to get shot.
Exactly.
So I guess.
When did the 7th Doctor get so tall? And look at those luxurious locks. I do not remember that. So yeah, it's definitely an improvement over the previous regeneration. So I'm going to take it as a win.
But I think he is the only Doctor, I say, with I think about but he doesn't get a goodbye regeneration. Like, in other words, there's no, Ace, I'm thinking about Ace, or I'm thinking about whatever. It's just sort of like...
Sixth Doctor doesn't get one either.
Well, that's true. You're right. That's true.
Again, I think he gets the... Out of the two...
That's right. He got the better...
He got
the
the better deal. Yeah, exactly.
TV movie, be it, but still.
Hey, paycheck's paycheck, yo.
Yeah. And so he's sort of... and we'll watch it again here, fortunately / unfortunately again. But, he's sort of in a slightly different thing, new TARDIS. And it is interesting that... Because I remember watching it in my memory, and like, he gets shot, and that's stupid. But it's true, but he doesn't... That's not what he dies of. He dies of doctors not knowing what to do with the two hearts.
Yes.
And he tries to tell them, and it doesn't work out. So, and then we get his Frankenstein regeneration. So, but so not the greatest.
Lord Byron / Buffalo Bill
exactly.
Regeneration, I think is what it is.
So, any final thoughts on the Seventh Doctor and his era?
No, I enjoy him. He in my mind, he's one of my favorites. He's absolutely my favorite classic Doctor.
Cool. Well, with that, we'll go into the TARDIS library.
Whoosh, 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 whoosh.
When you close your eyes,
I go to the library.
go to the library now.
Well, for this one, we're doing a book report by Phillip, as always. And this is a book that I believe you got me for a birthday or Christmas, I can't remember what. But Doctor Who, A History of Humankind, the Doctor's Official Guide. And would you like to read the back of the book?
I would love to read the back
and then
of
just
the
let
book.
Yes, it's a 12th Doctor book, if that helps your tone.
Robin Hood was just made up. Queen Elizabeth I never married. And nobody knows what happened to Jack the Ripper, right? Wrong. If you want to know the real story of human history, then this is the book for you. The Doctor has corrected this Coal Hill School history textbook with his own notes and illustrations, now packed full of real history, i.e. the kind with Daleks and Silurians and time travel. It tells you everything you need to know about our very special planet. It's history, but perhaps not quite as you know it.
So yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing because I hadn't cracked it open before, so I didn't know what to expect. But it's sort of the premise.
I got this for you for Christmas, and you're just now cracking it open?
Yes. Do you want me to point to the David Tennant Hamlet's DVD I got you? Because we can do this now.
I'm sorry I watched Broadchurch without you. I'm even sorrier you wrecked my truck.
Yes. We keep tallies here in this marriage.
We have a chalkboard.
Yep. So, so the premise is that it's sort of a children's history book, or young adults' history book, and that the 12th Doctor, has sort of papered over, sometimes literally, and written the correct history of things. And so has the little pretend library checkout at the front part. But yeah, I thought it was interesting because it sort of reads like a history book would, and that you'd give to like a 10-year-old or maybe even younger, but elementary school or whatever the British equivalent is, and with a simplistic like, oh, this is what the Romans were, and this is, but then sort of you have the Doctor like, well, this is what really happened, and it's all of course references to the Doctor's adventures throughout history, and it's mostly sort of, to me, heavily bookended because I guess not the problem, but the challenge is with the historicals, they are certainly weighted in the two directions. In other words, first and second Doctor, and then like New Who. There's not a lot of Sixth Doctor, or Fifth Doctor historicals. Now there are some appearances, the Fifth Doctor playing cricket, but all that. But for the most part, it's 1, 2, or like 11, 12. We know, of course, they'll have like the Ninth Doctor during the Battle of Britain. And they'll have 10th Doctor with Elizabeth I. But that's just what it goes through. And so, of course, it's very funny because it's both this. I think my favorite parts are sort of when the margins he makes on the sides. My less favorite parts, which is fine, but they were sort of like more like episode summaries. So it's like, oh, this is what happened, but oh, here, I'll tape this on the next page. It just gives you, this is the episode summary of that episode that I'm referring to. I'm like, yeah, no, I saw it. It's fine. But it's interesting. So yeah, it's sort of a definitely a fun read. If you're looking for a nice Doctor Who gift or something to enjoy yourself, it's definitely fun.
Cool.
Yeah. So
now I want to sit and read it.
Yeah. Like I said, it's sort of kind of a coffee table book of Doctor Who, if you will. Well, until next week, enjoy reading, watching, and listening to the Doctor's adventures throughout time and space.
This is BBC Television.